Hi, morning everyone. Welcome to the Knitting Expat Podcast, and I'm Mina, your host. Today is the 19th of May. I'm recording a day late. I apologise for that. Sorry, still a bit groggy. Yes, so Perry and I got back to Bahrain on Sunday evening. Sorry, I'm trying to remember. We got back Sunday evening, we got home, we were home by about 8 o'clock, so not too bad. And, but incredibly tired, incredibly knackered. I don't know what it is, like it was a 6-hour flight, which was much shorter than I'd expected. But I think there's something about flying anyway that's just really tiring, because we didn't do anything else that day. Anyway, as I said, day late, apologies, because I spent all of yesterday running around. I did all the laundry. Ran out to the shops to get some stuff that we needed. I took Perry's dry cleaning in to be done, all the usual jazz that you need to sort out when you first get home. And even better, I've completely unpacked everything. And even more proud of myself, I photographed all my yarn, including the stuff I already had, and edited all the pictures. I haven't uploaded any of them to Ravelry yet, but I'm going to, so that'll be fun. I haven't actually put anything on Ravelry Stash ever. I don't know, I think just the idea of pulling out everything and photographing it and doing it was just quite daunting, but not that I had that much anyway before this trip. Now I have more yarn than I've ever had. So even then, my stash now doesn't actually compare to most people's stash. I think what it is just the sheer quantity in such a small space of time. That may seem a little bit like, ooh. But honestly, I don't think I'm not going to be buying yarn for a very long time, because one, it's just tricky buying yarn here and getting yarn sent here. Two, I don't need to. I've already pre-planned about 20 projects, I think, with the stuff I've already got. So, and then a good chunk, I think probably a very decent chunk of what I've bought is sock yarn. So those are already predetermined projects to be socks. I think I probably have enough sock yarn now to knit socks for the next year and still probably not run out. So I think we're good on that side. And that's not including like the indie dyed sock yarns that I've bought. Anyway, so don't know if I introduced myself. My name's Mina. I live in Bahrain, hence why I'm called the Knitting Expat. If you're new to the group, if you're new to the podcast, then you might not know that. We do have a Ravelry group called the Knitting Expat Podcast, so if you are not a member, come on over and join us on the Ravelry group. You can find me on Ravelry as Mina86, and you can find me on Instagram as Mina Phillip. And you can find the show notes at the Knitting Expat website, which is knittingexpat.wordpress.com. Not website, blog, really. I also have a life blog where I blog weekly about stuff that we've been up to and other bits and pieces as and when they happen. But all of those will be linked down below in the description box on YouTube. And if you're watching this on the Ravelry group, they're all listed in the thread where I post the episodes. I just first off wanted to say welcome. I know this is not the first thing I'm saying, but anyway, welcome to all new and returning viewers. It's so lovely to have you here, and thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to join me while I blabber on about knitting. And I also want to say a massive thank you. There are now over 700 people subscribed to the YouTube channel, which is insane. I honestly never expected to get to where I am already so soon, and this is episode 10, so another special episode. I never thought I'd get to 10. So thank you. And if you are a member, if you have subscribed on YouTube and you're not a member of the Ravelry group, then you should come over and join, because I'm going to be starting a few giveaways and knit-alongs and stuff, which you'll have to be a member of the Ravelry group to be able to participate. So make sure you come and join in. And there's also a questions and answers thread on the Ravelry group, so if you have any questions or you want to know anything about me or about what I'm doing or anything at all, just ask away. And there's also an introductions thread. I love to hear from the people who watch the podcast, and I like to get to know you guys better because you're people, and I like to think of you guys as my friends. So introduce yourselves. I always try and get back to everyone, whether you send me a private message on Ravelry or leave a comment in one of the threads. So I've been trying to catch up with all of that since getting back, and I'm hoping I've gotten to everybody. My internet access while I was away was annoyingly sketchy. My phone was fine on the Wi-Fi at my parents' house and everywhere else that we went, but my laptop for some reason just was not gelling with the internet back in the UK. I don't know what's wrong with it, why it wasn't working, but I probably only got about 3 days online with my laptop. Thankfully, one of those days was the day I podcasted with my brother and did the last episode, so I was able to upload that with no issues. But about the day after, and for most of the week before, it kicked me off the internet. It wouldn't connect, so it's a bit difficult for me to reply to messages and stuff on my phone because I kind of want to take my time with this most of the time and write a proper response. So anyway, sorry about the sniffling. I have my allergies going a bit crazy now that we're back. I have a few specific thank yous to mention. I forgot to do these last week because I hadn't made a note of them, but I want to say a massive thank you to a few people who've mentioned me so kindly on their podcasts. First being Lottie of And Just Another Podcast. She is so wonderful. We've been chatting on Ravelry back and forth and on Instagram, and she's so sweet. I love her podcast, so if you haven't checked her out, you totally should. And she's in Germany. She's from Germany, and she's actually going to be moving to Australia with her boyfriend. To be with her boyfriend in this summer, so that's quite exciting. Also to Laurianne of A Homespun House, who mentioned me in one of her recent episodes. Thank you very much. You were very kind. And to Emma of the Yarn On Over podcast. She was so sweet, has such sweet things to say, and she's an incredibly adorable person herself. She made a funny comment that how she thought that my conversational style was quite was nice in that I wasn't speaking too fast, and that usually happens to her when she starts to get conversational rather than being quite formal. She starts to speak quite quickly. And I thought that was quite hilarious because usually I'm the person who starts running at 100 miles an hour when I'm talking conversationally. I think the reason why I talk slower on the podcast is because I'm actually trying to think of the next thing I need to say. So that's making me have to take my time and slow it down a little bit. But honestly, Emma, I think you come across great on camera, so no need to worry about that. And also to Chrissy of the Stitch Together podcast. She mentioned me in her last 2 episodes actually, and I just wanted to say thank you so much for all the lovely things you had to say. I am so incredibly glad you loved your swap package. We did a little one-on-one swap when I was back in the UK. I got in touch with Chrissy, and I think I mentioned this in the last episode. I got in touch with a few people based in the UK to see if they'd be interested in doing a swap, UK and Europe, to see if they'd be interested in doing a swap because postage would be much easier for both sides if I'm in the UK. And Chrissy was one of the ones who jumped at the chance to do a swap, and we had a great time. I love putting my package together for her, and I'm so happy she loved it, especially the bag and her goodies and all the stuff that was in there. And she was a test knitter for my cowl pattern, my delayed departures cowl, which is now available on Ravelry. And she actually now has a new cowl pattern coming out soon, so I volunteered to test for her. And I think I haven't started it yet because I wanted to show you guys the yarn first before I started. And I think it's one of those things, and this is why what I really like about knitting and the knitting community is that people are so supportive of each other. And I think it's really nice to be able to repay the favour like this if someone's tested a pattern for you to be able to offer to test the pattern for them, and just sort of like reciprocate every now and again when the opportunity arises and you have the availability to do so. I think that's really nice, and I'm really looking forward to trying out to starting the pattern. She's already sent it to me. I was just away at the time, and I wanted to wait until I could start it properly. And the last thank you, I had a lot to catch up on, is to Tilly Trout. She gave me a lovely mention in her latest episode, and I am so happy that you loved your bag, Tilly, and I don't know what it was, but honestly, as soon as I saw the roses fabric, I knew that had to be for you. And I'm not even sure I knew that you loved roses at the time. I don't know, the fabric just screamed Tilly. And you mentioned in one of your latest podcasts that you wish that yarn was priced by the kilo so that you could compare them price-wise. It's funny you should say that, because I noticed in John Lewis, if you go to their yarn section, at least the one in Oxford Street in central London had this, but if you look at the prices, it gives you the price per ball, whatever that is, but it also gives you the price by the kilo of what the equivalent would be for that yarn. So if you wanted to compare that way, you totally could. Apparently John Lewis is the place to do it. Right, so that is it for the introduction. I'll run you through quickly what the rest of the podcast is going to look like. I'm just going to go over some FOs. I'm going to talk about the whips that I've got going at the moment, what I've got planned up and coming. I'm going to talk about a few of the lovely packages that I've received when I was in the UK, being from swaps and gifts and other things. I'm going to go over the knit along information for the Sunrays shawl, which I've now named as the Sunrays shawl. I'll go over the details for that. Then I'm going to go over the acquisitions, and I'm only going to talk about the acquisitions I got from Loop, which is the yarn shop in London, and IKnit Fandango, which was the fibre festival I went to last week, and a couple of other small bits as well. And I'm going to end it off with a quick little week in review, and that's not how I'm going to end it. The week in review, then upcoming things to note. There are things coming up in the next couple of weeks that are going to affect certain things to do with the podcast. I'm going to try and fit in some questions and answers, and that'll be this episode. I apologise again, this will probably be a long one, but I'm going to try and keep it as short as possible. Right, so the first FO, I don't actually have to show you. It was the toddler hat that I made for a friend of mine in the UK for her 3-year-old. So I showed a picture of it on Instagram, then I gave it to her, didn't quite fit, so I had to rip it out. I did it again in a larger size. It's a hat that I sort of just designed as I went along. And a lot of people commented saying that they really like the pattern, so I've written it up and I just need to finalise the write-up and insert some pictures. And I actually want to do a larger size for adults as well, so I want to knit up another version, because again, I don't have one to photograph because I had to leave it with my mum to give to her when I left. So that was in Rico Creative Melange Chunky. I believe I showed it in my last podcast actually. I showed the hat, the first version that was too small, but I did re-knit it in a larger size, and I'll include a picture of that in the show notes. My next FO is my Winter is Coming shawl, which I finally, it was an FO last week, but I finally got around to blocking it. I love how it looks with all the tonal greys. It's so pretty. So you've got the wool at the beginning, followed by the snow, which is this little lacy bit. Then you got the waves. I don't know how well you can see that. There you go, you've got the waves. And then you got the dragon scales. And then I think it's the icicles and spikes, the little picot bind off. It's lovely. It blocked out a lot bigger than I thought it would. I was actually really concerned when I got it off the needles because it didn't look like it was going to be that big, but it blocked out. Everything always works out with blocking. I've come to learn that I need to just trust that blocking is going to make it work. And this actually worked out now to be, it's 145 centimeters long along the top edge and about 30 centimeters deep in the middle down to the end of one of the spikes. And I knit this as part of Sally Jane of the Pink Hair Girl, is her pattern, as part of the knit along that she's got going at the moment for this pattern. It's pattern specific knit along, kind of like what this one's going to be. And this was inspired, as if you can have guessed already, by the Game of Thrones series. So the knit along runs until I think it's the 21st of June when the season ends. So if you haven't already joined in, you still have plenty of time if you want to jump on in. It's a lovely pattern to knit, very quick, very easy. It's broken down into sections, So you can do like a section at a time, sort of break it down like that. And it's very fun. The stitch patterns are fun to do. You're not doing any of them for too long that it gets boring. So definitely worth checking it out if you haven't already. And next one is my newborn vertebrae, which I showed you the very beginnings of last week, which is done in the Regia Extra Twist Merino colour, and this is the colourway 9328. This is how much I had left over from a 50 gram 210 metre ball, and this is what it looks like. How dinky is this cardigan? Honestly, I was showing my mum after it was done and she was like, is that for a doll? I was like, no, this is supposed to be for a baby. Like, I genuinely am concerned that there is no baby in this world that would fit this unless it was a premature baby. But apparently this is a newborn size. I am clearly so out of touch with how big newborns are, or how tiny they are, I should say. Because, I mean, look at that compared to the size of my hand. That is ridiculously tiny. But I got gauge, so I guess that's a baby size. Newborn baby. Either way, it was incredibly quick, incredibly easy. And this was knit as part of the Lilo baby cowl, which is a knit along being run by Lotta of And Just Another Podcast, and Leah of the All You Knit Is Love podcast. They're doing a joint knit along for baby knits at the moment. So that's for that one. It's so cute. I can't imagine something tiny enough to fit this, but I guess they are that tiny, aren't they? So that's it for FOs. For whips, I only have 2 on the needles at the moment. One is my Persistence is Key, which actually hasn't changed since I last talked to you about it. But as I wasn't able to show it to you last time, I thought I would show it to you this time. And this is in my patchwork sweater sized, like massive project bag. Get it out. And this is knit with, it's all acrylic, Karen Simply Soft and Karen 1 pound yarn, which I actually don't mind. As far as acrylic goes, it's not the worst that I've knit with. So this is the front, you can see with the cables, at the front edges. And I've separated for the sleeves. And this is the back panel, the ribbing at the top. So the yellow stitch markers are where I was the last time I showed it on the podcast. And everything below that is what I knit in the 2 days before we left for London. So we've got a good rhythm going. And I found that once I got a rhythm going with the back panel pattern, it was actually quite easy to not so much memorize it, but it almost became quite intuitive when I looked at the pattern instructions for the chart. I didn't need to keep referring back to it. I looked at it once and I was able to do the whole back panel section, so it made it go a lot quicker than it was going before, which is why I think I was able to get as much done as I did, which was great. So I'm looking forward to getting back on track with that one. And the other whip, oh sorry, those are being knit on 4.5mm needles. My Knit Pro, the rainbow wooden ones, I can't remember what they're called. I think they're called Harmonies or something. The next one that I'm still considering a whip, even though it's off the needles because I haven't technically finished it yet. It was knit predominantly out of Drops Baby Alpaca Silk, and this is colorway number 8465. I believe this is called medium grey on the Love Knitting website. And there's some pops of the red Drops Baby Alpaca Silk, which is colorway number 3609. which is just red on Love Knitting. And Drops yarn is actually on sale at the moment on Love Knitting and Wool Warehouse in the UK. I'm not sure if it's on sale anywhere else, but it's on sale at the moment, so go get some, because this stuff is really lovely to work with. It's probably one of my favourite yarns, this baby alpaca silk. What I'm knitting with it, and I knit this on 3.75mm, the same Knit Pro needles. I showed this on Instagram a couple times over the last week. What I'm knitting with it is a pattern called Ponchette. And this is what it looks like. It's garter stitch for the main bit with a little mesh lace portion at the bottom with points, which, as you can tell, has not yet been blocked. I still need to weave in some of the ends. I've woven in most of the ends, there's just a few towards the end that I haven't woven in yet. Yeah, so this isn't a whip, this isn't an FO yet, because for one, it needs to be blocked and the ends woven in, but also it needs to be seamed. So I finished this I got it off the needles last night, and I was trying to figure out the best way to seam it. So it's supposed to be seamed with the bind off edge, so this edge, seamed along the vertical edge. So this is the way it goes. So it's supposed to be seamed along here, and then that will give you a neck hole at the top, and then you'll get the poncho shape. But then I found that that will actually end up giving you quite a long point at the front, and I'm not entirely sure if that's going to work or not, because this is for my mum. She's a bit shorter than me, she's not quite as tall as me, but she wanted this. She found the pattern and she picked it out and she was like, I want this. So I made it for her. I almost got it done whilst I was still in the UK, so I was very tempted to just finish it and leave it so I wouldn't have to bring it back, but I wanted to do it properly, so I didn't. Brought it back. And so yeah, I still need to play around. I think what I'm going to do is pin it together a few times in a few places and a few different ways, and try it on and see which way it's going to look the best. Then I need to block it, and then I need to seam it, weave in the ends, snip off the ends, and it will be done. And this is, well, it was supposed to be for her birthday, but nothing's a surprise for my mum anymore, because as she says, she watches all my episodes. So that's it for on my needles at the moment, and that actually has used up 1,640 meters of yarn, but I was holding it double because the pattern was written for sport to DK and I was using fingering, so I doubled it up, so it's actually more of a DK weight, which is fine. It's meant to be to keep her warm. It's meant to be an outer layer, and because it's got the silk in it, it will still droop a bit. And so even though it was doubled up, which means I actually knit 820 meters rather than the full 1640, but it did use up that much quantity of yarn. Right, so I can't actually remember who designed either of those two patterns that I just showed you, but they will be linked in the show notes, so sorry about that. So up and coming is, first things first, it's being stored in a loop bag, but I got this from Wool Warehouse. The yarn is the Drops Big Merino that I'm going to use to knit my dad's jumper with. It's actually quite a nice sort of charcoal grey. It's not as dark as proper black. I can still see the stitches fine on this when I look at it. I've done the maths on it, so I am ready to cast on and get going. And these will be knit on 4mm needles. So that's pretty much ready to go. The pattern I'll be using, I didn't realise at the time, but it's actually a Susan B. Anderson pattern for Spud and Chloe, which was a knit along, I believe, and the pattern is basically just a summary of the knit along steps. So I'm looking forward to getting that started. That should be fun. Then for Chrissy of the Stitch Together podcast, I'm doing her cowl test, which is the boat trip cowl pattern. and I'll be showing you for the yarn for that in the acquisition section. Then I want to do another version of my own hat pattern, which was the one I did for the toddler hat. I want to do an adult version to see how that works. Then I've got a few other pattern ideas that I need to sit down and flesh out and actually get started on working on those. And finally, the next pair of socks that I want to try are the Roller City socks. Rose City Rollers socks. Tongue twister. I found this pattern last night and I saw it on Instagram. I believe, can't remember who it was who posted it. But it was I was like, oh, that's pretty. It's a little rolled cuff with heel flap and gusset, just sort of short trainer socks. And even though they're top-down construction, I think I'll still like them. I mean, the only reason I don't do top-down construction is because I'm always worried about running out of yarn before I get to the end of my foot, because I have big feet. So I think what I'll do is, because these are short socks, so I'm not worried about running out of yarn, so it shouldn't be a problem. I'm going to give them a go with the top-down heel flap and gusset. And I think I would like to try the Hermione's Everyday Sock pattern for the top-down heel flap gusset, because I've heard a lot of good things about it, and I wouldn't mind giving it a go. So I think what I'm going to do is use contrasting heel and toe yarn. That way I won't worry about running out. So yeah, I'm going to give that a go and see how that works out as well at some point soon. So yeah, that's for up and coming. I have so many other projects. I actually have another shawl pattern that I'm looking at casting on soon. Not mine, is one that on Ravelry that I really liked. But yeah, lovely packages. So excuse me for reaching. My basket of goodies. So what I'm going to talk about today is a package that I got from Maria from the Stitched in Sweden podcast. She very kindly sent me a lovely little package of goodies as part of the swap that we did. And first off, she sent me some beautiful fabrics to play around with my sewing. Very lovely of her, and they're all beautifully coordinate. So I think I might have to try a little patchwork something with these. She sent me some lovely teas to try. So there's original, there's licorice, which I'm not a fan of licorice myself, but I'm willing to give the tea a go. And if not, Perry will probably like it because he loves licorice. Lemon, ginger, and manuka honey. That sounds amazing, especially I imagine that'd be really good for you if you've got a cold. And citron grass, is that meant to be lemongrass? Can't tell, but I'm sure it'd be lovely. And she also sent me a few of these lockable stitch markers, which is great because I've never had lockable stitch markers like this, so I imagine they'll be very useful. She also wrote me a lovely little note. And Maria, your handwriting is amazing. It is so neat. Wish I wrote like that. But I'm not going to read that out to you. She also sent me 2 skeins of Knit Picks Stroll fingering in the Everglade Heather, which is very sweet of her. And I already know exactly who these are going to be socks for. I have a friend of mine who very specifically, when I asked her what colour socks she wanted, she very specifically said green, just plain green socks, and I think this is the perfect colour for her. So those will be socks for her. And she also sent me some gorgeous minis, well, I say minis, they're not really minis, but mini skeins, I guess, of some traditional Swedish yarns, so, or Scandinavian yarns anyway. This one is Campus Spinnery Productor. I am so sorry, I can't pronounce this one. I don't know if you can see that on the screen. It starts there. This is a sport weight, 65 yards, 100% Swedish wool. Then there is Tusind Fritz, which is 30% baby alpaca, 70% ren old. I'm not sure what that translates as. I probably ought to have looked this up before I started, but I didn't. It's a beautiful blue colour. I really love that shade of blue. It's like a, so I can get the colour to show. It's more accurate when you see it on the edge here. It's not as dark as it's showing on this side. It's more this colour. That's beautiful. And there's this really lovely dark navy yaku, 100% merino wool. This is from Denmark. Again, yeah, that's pretty accurate. It's just a dark navy blue colour, which is beautiful. And this last one is Donegal tweed magazine duet, Gothenburg, Sweden, and this is also 100% merino. I love this shade of purple, and with all the little colourful specks in it. It's beautiful. I don't know if you can see the colours clearly or not. The camera's not able to put this up too well. There we go. Maybe that's better. I don't know if you can see that. Anyway, they're beautiful, and I'll put a picture of these on the show notes so you can see them better and more clearly. So that was the beautiful package from Maria. Then the next thing I'm going to show you is actually from Lucy, who is Lucy's Yarn Pocket on Instagram. She's actually the mother of Tanya Marie, who is the Sampler Girl, and she has the Sampler Girl podcast, and she's Busy Mama on Instagram. So I posted a picture that I was at Loop when I first went, and Lucy commented saying, "Oh, I'm going to be there next week," and I was like, "Oh, you're coming to London?" She was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Okay, well, I can come to Loop when you're there. Do you want to meet up?" And she was like, "Perfect, sounds great." So I met up with her at Loop the following few days after I first went, and she was actually there to meet up with a group of ladies, and they'd all previously gone on a knitting cruise together to Norway last year. So this was like their 1-year reunion, which I thought was so sweet, and I thought that sounds like the best idea ever. A knitting cruise to Norway, why not? Anyway, she was very kind and invited me to join them all for lunch that afternoon, and during lunch, her and her friend Nancy, they'd come over from the States together. Most of the other ladies were from the UK, and they'd brought a little package over. They're from Virginia, near Washington DC, I believe. And yeah, she gave me one of these packages, which is so beautifully wrapped. I didn't want to open it before I showed it to you. And this tag, which is so adorable, and the bookmark that's in the back were made by Nancy. I think it's so beautiful. So I'll open this quickly to show you what's inside it. And apologies for the crinkling. But like I said, I wanted to show it to you all nicely wrapped up before I opened it up on the podcast. There's the tag. How cute. Sorry. Okay, so this is supposed to be a package of a bunch of things that represent where they're from, basically Virginia. So there are cinnamon mints from Mount Vernon. Something about glare. There's George's cherry tree tea, which looks like fun. There are Mount Vernon, Virginia peanuts. Those won't last long in this house. Then there's some information cards about different things to do with George Washington and Mount Vernon, which will be interesting. She's also included some neighborhood fiber company, 100% superwash merino. Color is King Street yarn. So include a little mini ball of that for us to try out, which is really fun because I've never tried neighborhood fiber company yarn before. So that'll be interesting. That'll go into something special. There's another little booklet with photos and stuff about Mount Vernon. The gauge yarn and needle knitter thingy ruler from Fiberspace, which is her local yarn shop. She is so incredibly lucky. And a visitor's map from Mount Vernon and the bookmark. So that was such an incredibly kind gesture. A, for her to even agree to meet with me and invite me out to lunch, but then this was just so lovely, so unexpected. And sorry about more things, let me just move these out of the way. And the next thing is I met up with I think I mentioned this last week, I met up with Katrina, who is another viewer of the podcast, and she lives quite close to where my parents-in-law live. And so whilst I had some time in between being in London and going down to see my parents-in-law, we arranged to meet up. And she gave me the most wonderful bag of goodies. Like, honestly, it was so unnecessary. It was just such a pleasure to meet you, Katrina, and and honestly, just overwhelming with generosity. Starting off with a lovely little toy for the boys. They've been sniffing this out already, so I may have to give them some of this after the episode's over. They're little mice that you can put some catnip in. That's a little cat toy. I'm sure they're going to love that. She also crocheted me up some crocheted fruit. So I think it's got a cute little turtle stitch marker on there as well. A little apple. Oh, adorable. So these will have to go somewhere and be displayed. Probably put that on my bookcase at some point once I figure out how I'm going to arrange everything in this room. She included this beautiful little pack of minis, which there's no information about, and she didn't get any information when she got them either. They were just, it was just someone, I think she ordered some yarn from someone and they threw in a bunch of these packs of minis. Some beautiful tea. Ooh, you can't see anything there. So there's chocolate chili, rooibos, licorice, 3 cinnamon, 3 ginger, and chai latte. The chai latte ones, because they're not actually in a sealed bag, it's just the tea bags. Oh, they smell incredible. They're Twinings Bollywood chai latte. Yeah, so if you're interested, if you love chai latte, this one smells like it will be incredible. I may actually have to brew a cup of that after I'm done filming. And she also gave me this incredible quantity of amazing sock yarn scraps. Well, most of them are sock yarn scraps. There are a few other bits in there as well. A lot of Regia and a lot of other beautiful sock yarns. I had mentioned that I wanted to start a cozy memories blanket type thing, so these will be perfect to get started with that. This one isn't sock yarn, but this one is baby llama, and oh my god, this is so soft. I just want to sit there and rub my face against it all day. It is so soft. If you've never knit with baby llama like me, you need to try. Not that I've actually knit with it yet. And she also included this amazing book, At Knit's End, Meditations for Women Who Knit Too Much. And oh my god, this is hilarious. It is all just perfect. It is incredibly perfect. I'll just read out a couple of the quick passages for you. I'll just read out one passage now. I think what I might do is at the end of each episode read a passage going forward, because there are so many good ones. So this one says, "I'm happily married to a wonderful man who is generous, funny and kind. I have never even for one moment contemplated leaving him or being unfaithful. At least that was true until I found out that one of the women in our knitting guild is married to a man who owns a yarn store and builds her cedar-lined, moth-repelling closets as his hobby. I can't stop thinking about him." I just thought that was hilarious. There's a little bit at the end which says, "I will remember in the midst of an obsession with a man I've never met that my husband has his own special qualities." I just thought that was hilarious, because I'm pretty sure we all would love a man who owns a yarn shop and builds moth-repelling cedar-lined wardrobes for us. And the final thing that I wanted to talk about, which kind of leads on to the next section that I wanted to cover. She donated this beautiful skein of yarn. How gorgeous is that? Now this is by the Natural Dye Studio in their Chi Merino Bamboo 4-ply sock yarn. It's 100 grams, 400 yards, hand wash only, and the fiber origin is from Peru, and it is in the Peacock 3 colorway. Now this is a very special skein of yarn because this company is actually no longer in business. They are no longer dyeing yarn, and yeah, so you can't actually get this anywhere else anymore unless you find it on a D-stash. But it's very soft, it's beautiful, beautiful colors. It's merino bamboo, so it makes for some very luscious socks, and the colors are so soft. I just think this is a variegated. I don't believe it's self-striping. It doesn't say so on the label. But this is going to be one of the giveaways for the knit along. And whilst I'm talking about the knit along, I'll move on to that section. So, the knit along. The pattern's going to be released in early June once I get it all finalised. Then I was originally going to do the dates for the knit along start from the 1st of July to the 24th of August. But I figure, you know what? You can start as soon as the pattern is released. So the knit along is going to start from whenever the pattern is released until the 24th of August. So you're going to have more than 2 months basically to finish the shawl. I'll show you again the shawl pattern. And this is now going to be called the Sunrays shawl. It's a lovely single sock yarn skein shawl with a simple stockinette body and a lovely large lace motif in the bottom. And it's still being test knit, but I'm going to start finalising the pattern soon, as the majority of the testers have finished. I think there's only a couple left finishing up now. I am going to post a link on, I'm going to post a separate thread on the Ravelry group where you can actually, if you want to knit the pattern in the same yarn, in the same colorway, the Fiery Sunset colorway by the Yarn Tree, and or if you just want a skein of this yarn, then you can sign up. She's doing basically pre-orders, and I'll post a link for that on the Ravelry group. This is another one of the skeins, and it's 75% superwash merino, 20% nylon with gold stellina. Sorry, 20% nylon and 5% gold stellina. I'm not sure how well you can see this. Oh, wait, there you go. You can see the sparkle there. And it's a very sparkly yarn. And this blocked out, and this, I've got the blue one here as well, which was the first version I did. And this was done in Malabrigo sock, which is 100% merino wool, I believe. And you can see this one actually used up less yardage. I'm not entirely sure, even though they blocked out to the exact same size. I just think this one, I think the yarn might be a bit finer in this one because you could see through it a lot more than you did with this one. Yeah, I think that's probably what it is. I just think the yarn, I mean, you could still do this out of a single 100 gram, 400 meter skein of yarn. It wasn't a problem. I still had plenty left over. I wasn't running out. But if you are worried, or if you have slightly less than 400 meters and you think you're going to run out, you can quite easily bind off the pattern a couple rows early and it won't actually make that much of a difference. I added, when I was doing it, I added extra rows at the end because I wanted to use up more of the yarn. So if you need to end it a couple rows early when you're knitting, then it's not going to dramatically affect the overall size and effect of the pattern. So yeah, so that's, these are two of the prizes, and a third prize is going to be a project bag made by me. So what I'm going to do for that is I'm not actually going to pick a specific project bag. I'm going to wait until I've picked a winner, and then I will coordinate with that winner to discuss fabric choices and stuff to see what their preference is, and I will make them a bespoke project bag with the fabric they chose. So I thought that would be the best way of doing that one. So yeah, make sure you sign up for the yarn orders if that is what you want, if you want to use this colorway. Otherwise, feel free to check out the yarn tree. She has some beautiful colorways that you can choose. And you need to be a member of the group to take part in this knit along. I mean, you can take part in the knit along, but to be eligible for prizes, you will need to be a member of the Ravelry group, and you will need to post in the finished objects thread that I will put up when the knit along starts. So at the moment we're at 3 prizes, 2 skeins of yarn and 1 project bag. We'll see how it goes. Depending on how many people join the knit along, I may add more prizes. So because yeah, this is supposed to be fun. And that's, and I just thought I'd explain, like I said, these actually ended up blocking. I reblocked these yesterday, and I block my shawls quite hard because I don't have blocking wires, so I block them really hard on the top edge to get a straight edge, and I block them slightly as a crescent shape because I find they sit better around the neck when they're slightly curved at the ends. And so these came out both almost exactly the same size, I think within like a centimetre of each other, so 177 centimetres long, so that's I think about 70 inches roughly. I know 60 inches is about 1.5 meters, so this is an extra 27 centimeters. So yeah, it's about about 70 something inches, 177 centimeters, and they are 46 centimeters deep down the middle. So that's the shawl. Next, I am going to have to move on to acquisitions, and I am going to have to pause this here and rearrange my desk, and I'll be back with you. Right, I'm back now. Sorry about that. I just realized I was surrounded by stuff and I couldn't actually reach the yarn I wanted to show you. So I'm going to start off quickly with a few of the odds and ends that I wanted to show you this week, because I'm going to be wanting to use them and I wanted to show them to you first. First off is I got a yarn swift. It's a very basic, one of those sort of just plasticky metal ones, umbrella yarn swifts. I realised I probably ought to get one, if only because I think Perry's going to be sick and tired of holding my yarn for me while I wind it up on the ball winder, considering how many skeins I have bought that need to be wound from a swift. Get that lid back on. So I'm going to give this a go right after I finish podcasting whilst it's uploading. Put that over there. And the first thing I'm going to use it with is this skein of Malabrigo sock in Velvet Grapes, which is number 204. How beautiful are these shades of purple? I love purple, if you hadn't already guessed. But this is the yarn I'm going to use to knit the test knit for Chrissy's the boat trip cowl, which I'm test knitting for her. So I'm going to get this skeined up today, balled up today. It's so squishy, and I'll be casting this on later this afternoon. Right, and moving on first to my loop bag. Actually, the first two I'm going to show you in here I didn't actually get from Loop, I got from John Lewis. Like I said, we popped into John Lewis, which is in central London, and I picked up 2 skeins of the Sirdar Heart and Soul in these 2 colourways, and this one is shade 107 and this one is shade 104. And I got these, actually I think I saw them for the first time on the Little Bobbins podcast. Danny, I remember in one of her episodes, was showing one of these or another colourway of this yarn. I was like, ooh, that looks like fun. And yeah, it's 410 meters in 100 grams, 75% wool, 25% nylon, pretty standard sock yarn. And I thought that'd be quite fun. And this one in particular, I am planning on knitting little sockies for my friend Steph for her twin girls. And if there's enough left over, a pair for her little baby as well. So that should be fun. And you'll understand why in a minute. I'll get to that later at the end of the podcast. And this one, because it's fun rainbow colours, and you know me, I can't resist rainbow colours. So now moving on to the stuff I bought at Loop. First up are these 3 skeins of Quince & Company yarns. How beautiful are these skeins. Sorry, my colours seem to be a bit funny this week with the lighting. I am filming a bit later than I normally do, so that might be why. So this is the Quince & Co. Chickadee, 100% American wool, and this is in the Frost colourway, number 103. It's 166 meters in 50 grams, and this is a sport weight. It's a sport weight yarn. And I got 2 of the purple, the dark purple, which is also the Quince & Company Chickadee, Frank's Plum, number 114 colourway. This is also 166 meters in 50 grams, and I got 2 of these. I have a very specific shawl pattern that I wanted to knit in mind when I bought this yarn, and it's quite funny because I think it's the first time that I've walked into, or even online, it's the first time I have, actually no, that's a lie, it's not the first time. It's the first time I've done it in person. It's the first time I've looked at yarn and been like, and previously I'd looked at a pattern and been like, okay, I want to find yarn specifically for this pattern, and went into a yarn shop and found it. I have done it online before, forgot. This is the first time I'm showing you. The other ones I haven't actually shown you yet. So that's those. I picked up a skein of Socks That Rock in this amazing colourway. This is 100% superwash merino. It's the lightweight. It's 370 meters in the Crazy Lace Agate. I think that's how you say it, Crazy Lace Agate colourway. They had so many fun colours on the wall, all sorts of bright mix of rainbow colours and stuff, and I thought, you know what, I've bought a lot of rainbow colours, but I really like the colouring in this one. From the yellows to the orangey reds to the blues and then to the greys. And the greys almost come back round to each other. It's just so beautiful. I'm not sure if these will be socks or if they'll be something else. I haven't quite decided on that yet, but there's plenty of yardage in there for anything. I got 2 skeins of Madeline Tosh Light. I believe that's, yeah, Tosh Light, Tosh Merino Light. These are my first skeins of Madeline Tosh, and this one is in the Jade colourway, and this one is in Tern. And I think I have a shawl pattern in mind that I think would work beautifully with these 2 colours. And I bought these specifically for a shawl and for them and to be used together. I just love how tonal they are. I could have literally gone crazy and bought so much Madeline Tosh while I was in there. There was just so many to choose from and different types. I almost bought a couple of skeins of their Prairie, which is their lace weight, but then I had to think about it and I realised, you know what, I actually have bought quite a bit of lace weight recently, and I get quite stressed if I buy yarn not knowing what I'm going to use it for. So for example, these 2, I may not know what specific project I'm going to use them for, and I may actually use them for a design project, but I know this will be a shawl, so I'm okay with that. But with lace weight yarn, or with something that I may want to use for a garment, unless I know exactly what it's going to be, and I know what yarn I need, what colours I need, how many skeins I need, it would stress me out in case I didn't buy enough. So that's why I didn't pick up anything else, and I think, you know what, it's going to be there when I go back. It's not going to be the last time I go to London or to Loop, or it's not going to be the last time I ever get a chance to buy Malabrigo, or sorry, not Malabrigo, Madeline Tosh. So I need not go crazy on this first time. So I think I was pretty well restrained in that regard. So next up, I picked up a few balls of Crazy Zalba balls because they're always fun. So I picked up this sort of green colourway and this red and blues, which I really liked. And these will probably end up being socks for my dad and my brother, one each. And these are, again, standard sock yarn mixes, 75% wool, 25% nylon. They are machine washable, hence why they'll be socks for my family, or for other people rather, because I know it's gonna be difficult for them to destroy them if they're machine washable. And I also picked up this skein, which is bright oranges and blues, which I'll either make socks for Perry or myself. I just love the barber poling. Just love that. Pop these away, get them out of the way. Then I'm gonna share with you the stuff I got from IKnit Fandango, the fibre festival that I went to with my friend Mel. Right, first up, I went there with a very specific sort of budget in mind, I guess. I did spend more than my budget, always happens, but the things I spent it on were unexpected, as in I did not expect to see those things there for such a good deal, so I couldn't resist getting them. The first of those was this. One of the stalls, I think it was called Knit Witches, had a little sale bin in one corner, and in it was this plastic bag full of this yarn. I'm not sure how well the colours are showing up here. It's a very sort of dark tonal berry colours. There we go. Oh, there we go, that's better. Camera's being quite funny about the colours today, but you sort of get the idea. And there is an entire bag full. This entire bag is just that yarn. There are 12 skeins in total. They range from 50 to 100 grams. I think there's only 100 gram skein in here. The rest are all 50 grams. They're thereabouts, 50 to 60 each. It's DK, 100% wool. No label. There's no other information about it. No idea if it's superwash or not superwash. I know there's 670 grams and 1300 meters in the skeins, and I know that it's DK. That's about it. And the whole lot was on sale for a ridiculous price, so of course I had to grab it, and it's so soft. The first thing I did was I opened the bag and I stroked it and I felt it, and it's so soft. So I was like, yeah, okay, gonna have to get this. It was a really good deal. It was ridiculously cheap, and I went and showed it to my friend Mel, who I was with at the time, and a few other people. We sat down, and I'll tell you about this later, but a few other people I met I showed this to, and everyone agreed that it feels and looks a lot like Malabrigo Rios, which I've never worked with, so I can't really say, but most people's first reaction was, is this Malabrigo Rios? So I guess that's a good thing. It's a good reaction to have. So I'm really chuffed with that, and that will probably end up being a cardigan either for me or for my mum, because those colours are very much my mum's colours. The other unexpected purchase of the day was a, actually I'll show you this first. And also in the Knit Witches sale bin was this partial skein of lace weight yarn. It's cashmere merino. Again, first thing I did was take it out of the bag and then stroke it. And oh my god, this is the softest, squishiest, most delicious skein of yarn. It is so soft. I have no idea what the percentages are. It just says cashmere merino on the bag. It says it was only 85 grams, but when I got it home, I actually weighed it. It's 95 grams. So that actually works out to be 760 meters of lace weight yarn, which, oh, there's so much that can be done with that. I have nothing in mind for this other than it was beautiful and I had to buy it. So, not sure what that will become yet. Sorry about the crinkling. So yes, the other unexpected thing that I bought, which I wasn't expecting to get at all, on this trip was a set of high sharps. So I wasn't expecting to get these because they're expensive needles. I always wanted to get a set of high sharps. See, they come in this beautiful case, and you get 7 tips. Yeah, you get 7 tips ranging from 2.75 to 5mm. And these are the sharps, so they're extra pointy tips. And I got the 4-inch tips, so with the cables you actually get the 16-inch size for hats, which is perfect because I do quite a bit of hats. And yeah, they're beautiful. And like I said, I wasn't expecting on getting these this trip because they are quite expensive. They're quite pricey usually, but they were on sale for half price at IKnit Fandango. So I couldn't exactly say no, could I? So yes, I came home with a set of high-hires. That was really my big unexpected splurge. Other things that I picked up at IKnit, I got these cute little stitch markers and an apple, and there's like evil eye things, and another one that was just fun colours. I picked up, where is it? I'm trying to go in a specific order here. So along with the hires from the IKnit stall, I picked up a sock blank. They're IKnit or dye, and this is actually their own yarn that they dye up with and this is in their rainbow sock colours, which is fun because of course if I'm going to knit socks they are going to be rainbow colours. And I also picked up a skein of fibre spades, fingering yarn, 100% superwash merino vivacious 4-ply this one is. Sorry, let me take this off. Maybe it's the reds in this that's throwing the camera off. It seems to be a bit better. There we go. That's pretty accurate colour-wise. It's sort of just really dark purples with hints of green and other colours in there. Just love the mottled shades. And this is in the Tweed Imps colour. Love this. I think this may have to be a hat. And I picked up a skein, this beautiful skein. It's a single ply merino. I think it's single ply merino. Yeah, it's 100% superwash merino wool. It's by Sparkle Duck, and this is in the stained glass colorway. Because honestly, what else would you call this other than stained glass? It is so beautiful. I think this may have to be a shawl. And the final purchases are from the Woolmize stand, which was actually the first place we went to. And I picked up a skein of twin in this beautiful, what I call rose garden colorway, because that's what it looks like to me. It looks like a rose with the green stem and the red top. Beautiful sort of peachy colors and yellows in between. And this is in the Johannisbeer und Brennnessel color. I do not speak German. Don't know if anyone can see that. It's there. That's the colorway name. This is in their twin, so it's 80% wool, 20% polyamide, and this is a 150 gram hank, so that's 510 yards. And I couldn't leave without picking up a skein of their lace yarn. So I got this beautiful colorway, and I know I only showed a bit of this on Instagram. I showed this end of it, but this is the color on the other end, and I love this. It's quite similar in that it's got the green and transitions to another color. I think I really like that sort of thing. And this one is called Grapes for Sherry. Actually got the colorway in English, it seems. And this is a ridiculously beautiful and squishy and massive hank. This is 300 grams of their lace yarn, which is actually more of a heavy lace than true lace. and this is 1722 yards. So this may end up being a Hitterfrude, some other fingering lace weight cardigan, or a really, really big shawl, because I really want to make the most of this colour. It is so pretty. And with that, rounds up my acquisitions for this week. Oh, sorry, one last thing. I picked up a bottle of Eucalan wool wash because I've never had wool wash before, so anyway. So that's it for the acquisitions. A lot for this week. But I'm going to move on quickly to a week in review very quickly. Went to Loop about 3 times whilst I was in London, which was great. On the last time I went was Thursday of last week. I met up with my friend Mel, who was over from Dubai. She was in London. She was in London for a few days over last weekend. I believe she was there for something for her daughter, and it just happened I was there at the same time. So we met up at Loop and went for their knit night on Thursday evening, which was a lot of fun. And then on Friday we'd arranged to go to the IKnit Fandango Fibre Festival together, and that was so much fun. That was an incredible day. We were one of the first people in through the door. First thing we did was we head to the Woolmise stand. I picked up my skeins of Woolmise. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, but that's the only way I know how to say it. And Mel had orders actually from some of the people from our knitting group in Dubai. Had placed orders with her for specific colourways of specific Woolmise yarns. So I was busy helping her trying to find the yarns. Then we perused the stalls. We stopped by Spin City UK, and Mel learnt how to spin and decided she's buying a spindle and some fibre, so I left her there to learn how to spin while I went and bought myself some highs. It was a really good day. It was just so much fun. Both of us, Mel was one of my test knitters for my shawl, so both of us were wearing our shawls that day, and we both got so many comments on this shawl, and I was so happy that people were so positive about it. And I had one person come up to me at one point and say, "Oh, I just bought that exact same colourway," and I was sat there going, "No, you didn't, because the dye is not here." But there were colourways similar to this one being sold that day. So I think it was without the sparkle, the one that she got. But yeah, it was such an incredible day. I had my first instance of being recognised, which was not awkward. It was incredibly what's the word for it? Unexpected. It was incredibly unexpected. It was I believe it was Julie was her name. Mel and I had gone to get some lunch, and we came back. They had these tables set up around the place where you could just sit and relax, knit, eat food, whatever, mingle, chat. And we'd been sat down before, and we went up to get lunch, and we came back, and there were different people sat at the table this time when we got back. So we sat down, and literally just as I was putting my tray down and sitting down, the woman across the table, who turned out to be Julie, I believe, I'm sorry if I got your name wrong, I think it's Julie, turned round and looked up at me. I was like, "Oh, I was just talking about you." I was telling her, pointing to her friend, I was telling her about your podcast, and I was like, "Oh, okay, hello." So that was, like I said, one of those unexpected moments. And her friend, who she was talking to about the podcast, was called Michelle, and she actually runs the SuffolkSocks.com online yarn shop. So you should check them out. And I really love the name of their local knitting group. It's called the Wool Pack, which I think is just awesome. I think that's the perfect name for a knitting group, the Wool Pack. And we talked to some other lovely people that day as well. There was Jen, who was sat on that table for a while. She went away and she came back again later, and she used to live in Saudi Arabia actually with her husband years ago, so we sort of bonded over that and got to chatting. I was knitting on the ponchette pattern for my mum, and she instantly recognised it before I'd even opened it up properly. She knew what it was, because I think she'd knit one before, which I thought was quite interesting. And I also got chatting to another couple of ladies called Katrin, and I think it was Katrin, and Judith, And Caitlin had, what was it? I think she followed me on Instagram, and so she sort of tagged me in the picture saying that she was there and she could see me. So I turned around and said hello to her and went over to her table and had a chat with her for a while and stuff. And we bonded over our mutual love for Iceland. Her and her family go to Iceland quite regularly. And so that was really fun to have someone to chat to about that. And she said something really quite true as well. She was like, it's really nice to be somewhere where you can chat about yarn and knitting and stuff and not be thought of as a crazy person. And when I was telling one of my friends about this afterwards, she was like, yes, because you're with all the crazies. But I don't care, because I thought that was so much fun. It was such a lovely day. And to round off the day, towards the end, Mel and I got to meet Nathan of the Sockmentician podcast, who showed up at the Fiberfest source. That was really a lot of fun. We spent quite a bit of time chatting with him and stuff like that, and just getting to know each other, and that was incredible. His podcast is actually one of the ones that is on my list of ones to check out. I've just been so far behind with catching up on podcasts since getting back. I think I have a couple more left to catch up on, and then I've got 2 new ones that I need to check out. One of them is the Sockmentician podcast, so I will be catching up on that very soon. And if you haven't already watched his podcast, you totally should. Having met him and spoken to him, he seems like such a lovely person, and I can't wait to watch his episodes. And moving on quickly to the last bit now, because I realise I'm over an hour now. Upcoming things to note. So I said earlier that there are a few things coming up in the next few weeks that may throw off my podcasting schedule. One is I haven't quite sorted out exactly when I'm going, but more than likely I will be in Dubai for all of next week. I need to go to sort out some stuff for my Saudi residency visa, so I need to go to Dubai and do a medical test and get the process started from there. Then after that, probably almost immediately after that, I'll be going to Saudi Arabia, and I'll probably be there for most of a week whilst my residency gets finalised. The reason why all this needs to happen quite quickly is because Perry leaves for the New York leg of the next leg of his MBA course, which is in New York, and he leaves for that in the second week of June. And I really want to get this sorted before he goes away, because when he gets back, Ramadan will start soon after, and everything just kind of grinds to a halt during Ramadan, and it will just take so much longer to get this done, and I don't really want to leave it and wait until after, because it just means it's dragging out forever at that point. I just really want to get this visa stuff sorted and just be done with that. And on that note, I need to get an abaya, so that'll be fun. I'm going shopping for an abaya with a friend here on Thursday morning, so fingers crossed I managed to get one. It should be fine. I just need to find one that's long enough. So my podcast schedule might be a little bit wacky for the next couple of weeks. I had hoped that I was going to be able to get my Etsy shop up and running by the end of the month, but it looks like I'm barely going to be home for the next 2 weeks, so I'm not going to be able to do any sewing, it seems, which is really annoying, because I really wanted to get it done by the end of, get some stuff up by the end of May. But I figure even if I did, I wouldn't be around to be able to post any of it. So my new goal is going to be end of June. My new goal for opening up the Etsy shop, because I want to do it properly. I want to have enough bags up, and I want to do it right. So end of June is now the goal. And then on top of that, I am probably going to be away for the first week of July, which will be because I'm going to Turkey with my family. And when I say my family, I mean my extended family. We were planning a family reunion in Turkey for the last few months, and then one of my cousins decided that since we were all gathering in one place anyway, that he'll just have his wedding at the same time. So it's turned into this wedding, and we're still waiting for, the dates have pretty much been set. We're just waiting for a few things to be finalized before we go ahead and book, but that'll probably be the first week of July. So yes, a busy start to the summer. It's going to be a lot of, I realise I'm not actually going to be home that much for the next couple of weeks. So like I said, I will podcast when I can, and I just can't promise it will necessarily be Mondays for the next couple of weeks, but I will try and do a podcast every week. Okay, so moving on, questions and answers section. I'm going to do this very quickly. The story behind my name. I had a few people get in touch with me after my episode last week asking for me to explain the name situation. I'll keep it as short as possible. When I was born, my parents had a bit of an argument as to what to name me. My dad wanted to call me Neda. My mum wanted to call me Mina after her mum, so it's my grandmother's name. And my dad obviously won that argument because I got called Neda. I hated the name Neda growing up because we had another family who my parents were really close to, and they also had a daughter who was about a year older than me, also called Neda. So she became Big Neda, as in older Neda, and I was referred to as Little Neda. My own parents started calling me Little Neda. Yeah, I wasn't a fan of that. I really didn't like it as a little kid. I always remember not liking being called Little Neda, especially when I got to be the same size, if not a bit bigger than Big Neda. So at about the age of 6, we were in the midst of moving, and I was about to change schools. My mum sort of sat me down one day and was just like, explain the situation. Bear in mind I was 6, and was like, okay, this is what happened. I wanted to call you Mina, blah, blah, blah. Do you want to change your name? I was all over that. I was like, yeah, I don't want to be called Neda anymore. I did not like Neda. I never liked it. It just, I don't know, just never gelled with me. So as of the age of 6, I've been Mina ever since. I've never changed my name on my passport. I've never changed my name on my birth certificate because I have dual nationality. I have both Iranian and British nationality and passports. The issue is you can't change your name just because you want to on your Iranian paperwork, as it were. There are very specific reasons and allowances for changing your name, and just because you want to isn't one of them. So the problem I had was, well, first initially I was just lazy. I was like, I'll change my name when I get married, and I'm changing my surname anyway. So I got married, and then I went to look into actually changing my name. And then I realized there's actually quite a complicated process for getting my surname changed in Iran, because women in Iran don't change their surnames when they get married. What happens is your husband's name gets added to what is essentially like your to your passport or whatever as your husband, and so their name goes in there, but you never actually change your surname. So the problem I had was I was changing my surname already on my British passport. If I changed my first name as well, I essentially would have two completely different identities, because my husband's name is not in my Iranian passport yet. Like I said, a much more complicated process than it needed to be, and with the embassies being, not going to go into that. Basically, I would have ended up with one entirely different name on my British passport and an entirely different name to that on my Iranian passport, and I just sat there going, this is a recipe for disaster if I ever want to go to Iran, because leaving the country is going to be a nightmare when I have two completely different names. Forget the fact that the Iranians are completely paranoid about spies, and British spies in particular, and all of that kind of crap. The Iranian government, that is, not the people, the government. But on the most basic level possible, what name would I put on a ticket? Because when I fly into Iran, I show both passports at the airport. When I fly out of Iran, I have to show both passports at the airport, because usually most Iranians would need visas to travel to most other countries. So if they look at my Iranian passport and see I don't have a visa, they'll immediately ask for my other passport. So if I have to hand over two passports with two completely different names, it's just going to raise so many questions and so much more trouble than I want to invite into my life, to be honest. So I never bothered changing my name, my first name. So I've just kept it as Neda for now. It's really not a big deal. I don't go by that name. The only times I actually use that name is for post, at the doctor's office, and for any official legal paperwork. Otherwise, I'm always known as Mina everywhere. So that's the story behind the name. And yes, I prefer to be called Mina, if you haven't already figured that one out. Some people ask me what I do for a job. because I mentioned that I work part-time and stuff at the moment, but I haven't really gone into much detail about what that actually involves. So my job is I am a quantity surveyor. That is the official name of what I do, but my job is kind of morphed into more of a cost manager role. I work in construction. I've always worked for construction companies, but the actual contractors that build buildings. I'm not a builder myself. I merely manage the money. I'm a money person. I manage the money for construction projects. I deal with, money coming in, money going out, making sure people get paid on time. My role has also morphed into other things, dealing with contractual issues and a whole host of other things, but the gist of it is money, measurement of construction projects, and dealing with the financial aspects of it. So like I've said before, maths is my day job. So it's a good thing, I don't mind. And at the moment, since we left Dubai, the company I was working for over there, I was only actually employed for one specific project, and the project is now finished, but there's a bunch of things left to sort out financially after a project finishes. So that's what I'm basically doing at the moment. I'm sort of just picking up the odds and ends that are left to be done to round out the end of the project. So I can do that remotely. I don't have to physically be present to do that part of my job. So that's what I do. And I work from home. I do what needs to be done as and when it arises. So it's pretty good going at the moment. Right, I do have a couple of other questions to answer, but I think I'm going to leave that there for now, because at the moment this is running a lot longer than I'd hoped for. So thank you so much for joining me today. I think I am going to go and get myself sorted. I need to tidy up the mess that I've now created. I need to get show notes typed up and get this podcast edited and uploaded to YouTube. So thank you for joining me. Like I've said before, you can find me on Ravelry as Mina86, on Instagram as Mina Phillip, and on the Ravelry group is the Knitting Expat Podcast. So if you haven't joined already, please come and join in, because like I said, to be eligible for prizes and stuff and knit-alongs and giveaways that I'm planning, you will need to be a member of the group. And also, it's fun. And you can also find show notes at knittingexpat.wordpress.com, and all of that will be linked down below. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you have a lovely week. Happy knitting. Bye.